Chaitanya's moon is rising.
What was your life before coming into Krishna consciousness?
My lifetime is two bodies. I didn't realize I changed bodies.
I think I could say the first time I heard the Maha Mantra was through my mother.
So what was your personal experience when you first time saw Prabhupada in front of you?
It was not of this world.
Oh wow.
The stairways, and suddenly the entrance to the airplane lit up. May I kill you?
Krishna speaks even the birds' languages.
And she said he was an expert musician,
No doubt in that.
and he asked me to join the roadshow.
Some devotees, they say like we have to stick with our devotional instruments like mridanga and kartal only.
The one who started really putting things to music was Bhattarini.
So you both played as a band ever in front of Prabhupada?
And he came upstairs and played a song he'd just written called Lord Chaitanya's Moon is Rising.
It's
Telling
jamming everywhere we
everyone
beat. Yeah.
We're going home. Praise the Lord!
You were also part of this?
And Prabhupada wanted them to
In India.
travel around India playing guitar and singing.
Yeah, Prabhupada taught him harmonium, but
So nowadays we have bhajan clubbing. What do you want to say to them?
Music is always appealing, but the strength of it comes from
Tell me about you were there with Prabhupada and Prabhupada left.
I was ordered by Srila Prabhupada to live in Vrindavan. Actually, my son was holding Prabhupada's hand, and she was holding the dhoti that Srila Prabhupada was wearing, and she tore the hem off of it. The dhoti hem right here.
Aajo, Ashirwad le lo.
Then they placed him sitting cross-legged, and he was still exhibiting symptoms of ecstasy, and his body wasn't.
How you took shelter of Narayan Maharaj?
And Srila Narayan Maharaj took over and began singing, wrote all the mantras on his body.
What was your experience?
he didn't want the society to split apart. At one point, some devotees wanted to go with him. He wanted to keep us, together. Now there's a big controversy now about Prabhupada's books being changed.
Hare Krishna, welcome to Nikunj Films, and today I'm in front of camera. पता है बहुत ही अजीब बात है कि मैं कैमरा के सामने हूँ, and I'm nervous too. But वो बोलते हैं comfort zone से तो बाहर जाना चाहिए. So I'm coming out of my comfort zone and doing podcast for the first time. And today we have very special guest. They are very close to me, and I did 2 music videos with them. They are on my channel already. I'm very excited. Just a disclaimer, I don't want to say that I'm a very great devotee, or I just want to present myself as you guys who are learning with the process of talking with senior devotees, taking their guidance. Instead of keeping this conversation private, I thought let me just make it public and we learn from them. We learn from those conversations, and that's what the goal of our conversation is today. So और पहली बार कर रहा हूँ यार ये, तो इंग्लिश में करना पड़ रहा है, मेरी अंग्रेजी थोड़ी ऊपर नीचे है तो उसको भी थोड़ा माफ करते रहना, ठीक है? But yeah, they will be speaking most of the time. I will be speaking less, so I'm more comfortable in that. So presenting you Her Grace Bhavatarni Mataji and Narhari Prabhu, His Grace Narhari Prabhu.
Thank you.
Welcome to our first time podcast. I'm nervous.
Thank you.
Oh, we're honored to be here.
This is first time we are doing outside. We are doing in Vrindavan. How are you feeling? You're sitting here.
I'm in Vrindavan on the bank of the Yamuna with the sun rising and Keshi Ghat across, and fog and mustard plants and beautiful sand. I'm a little cold though. There's fog.
Okay. But you're comfortable, right?
Yes, very.
Yeah. How are you feeling?
More than comfortable.
Oh.
I'm so happy to be in Vrindavan on the Yamuna with wonderful devotees.
I just am amazed and so thankful to my spiritual master, my Gurudev. Has given me a chance. He has given me the Yamuna, Vrindavan, Shastra, and especially the Maha Mantra. But yet to be here is an honor, and we're very happy to, if possible, to serve the devotees. My apologies for not speaking Hindi.
Okay. So, first of all, I want to know, what was your life before coming into Krishna consciousness, from your childhood till you met Prabhupada, you came into contact of Krishna consciousness?
I'm what's called a Jyoti Smara. So my lifetime is two bodies. So the body before this one, I was only in it for 13 years, and I died and was unconscious And when I came to, I didn't realize I'd changed bodies. And I found myself in a totally different culture. I don't know where I was before, but I had a darker complexion and dark hair, dark eyes. And suddenly I didn't know where I was. And eventually I found out I had blonde hair and blue eyes. And I wanted to go back and tell my mother and my aunt, don't cry, I'm not dead. I'm rich. I live in a big white house. It was just the ceiling that was white because when I was newborn, I was in a crib looking at the ceiling. And I said, and I have blonde hair and blue eyes. And later on, when I could speak, I told my mother how I'd been in a different body, and the culture I was in did not believe in that. So she said, sometimes I think that I'm dreaming and I'm going to wake up and be someone else, but don't tell anyone about this because they'll think you're crazy. But I did have the advantage of believing in reincarnation because I'd experienced it. So I grew up in a wealthy Jewish family in the United States in the deep South, Atlanta, Georgia. When I was born, there was segregation, I was being in I raised. My grandfather was vegetarian, and we lived next door. So I was raised with my grandparents and my cousins, and we were learned many different things. My mother taught horseback riding, and she sang on the radio when she was young, not for money because that was not proper. And so when I was 3, I composed my first song, and with my sister and cousin, we made up a dance to go with it and performed it for family members in the bridge club, for my grandmother, and like that. So I was taught different arts, and of course went to school, which I hated. So by the time I met Srila Prabhupada, I was 23 years old. I'd already been married and divorced, had 3 children, and I had become a hippie because I was looking for the truth. Who am I? What's the meaning of life? And I had renounced the material wealth, and I had moved to Hawaii, and I was living with a local Hawaiian person, and we were very interested in spiritual life, so we were following yoga books, and we were actually following the 4 regulative principles. We didn't know that's what they were. And I had learned a chant that I thought was very nice, Ek Omkar Satnam Siriwa Guru. And in my travels, when I was going from different groups to different groups, I went to an ashram of Yogi Bhajan, and they said, Yogi Bhajan says, if you chant this mantra every morning at 4:30 a.m. for 40 days, at the end of 40 days, he will grant you enlightenment. Well, my boyfriend at the time said, I said I had to do it at the beach. We lived a block from the beach in an island called Kauai. And he said, well, it's too dangerous. You can't go to the beach at 4:30 in the morning by yourself. So I'll come with you if we can chant Hare Krishna as the sun's rising. So we did that for 40 days. And there was no ashram on our island. And I found a pamphlet that said, meditate on the moon, meditate on the sun, meditate on the wind or something. All is one. Come to the haiku meditation center on a different island. So he said, why don't you go check it out? I'll watch the children. So I went there, and it had just been turned into a Hare Krishna ISKCON temple 3 days before I arrived. And it was founded by a local Hawaiian who surrendered 3 days before I got there. He'd surrendered his whole followers, 200 disciples, all his buildings to Prabhupada. So he wasn't there, and some ISKCON devotees were there, and they said, "Oh, why don't you come live here? We're going to have a school, and you can," they explained the philosophy to me. I stayed the night and went to Mangalarti. So I was very impressed. And when I first got to the ashram there, I took a plane and I had to hitchhike to get there, and then I had to hike down a road. And when I came to the Krishna temple, there was a brahmachari in the yard taking care of Tulsi, and he said Hare Krishna, and everything I'd ever heard about Krishna all came together, and I thought, oh, this is it. This is what I'm looking for. And so I went back to the other island, and we were planning to move there, and they said, they sent a letter, "Oh, we closed this. You have to come to the main temple, the ISKCON temple." So we got there, and we had 2 children with us, and they said, "Sorry, no children." But then we met the person who had surrendered with the 200 disciples, and it turns out that my boyfriend had been his roommate in college. So even though we knew nothing, they sent us back to his house. He had 8 brothers and sisters and had us open up a temple.
What about you, Prabhuji?
How do it started?
Yeah.
How do I met?
Like, how was your childhood and how was till you came into Krishna consciousness?
I was born in Buenos Aires, Argentina. My father was from a prominent medical background, and he had a degree in dentistry at that time. By my other cousins and uncles, doctors, prominent doctors, very known, and ultimately my cousin now is very internationally known neurosurgeon. So that was my father's side of the family. On my mother's side, they came to Argentina very early on in 1500s, and they were descendants on her mother's side from the viceroy from Spain in 1500s, and they brought their own deity of Thakurji of Virgin Mary, and they founded churches in Buenos Aires. My grandfather, my mother's father, was also born in Madrid, in Spain, and he was from nobility, descendant from kings, and like that. But I was raised middle class, middle upper class. I was, I think I could say the first time I heard the Mahamantra was through my mother. Coming back from school, I was maybe 15 years old, 15, 16. And she said, oh, my mother was a very good singer. And as my wife here, her mother too, they were both on the radio. And she said to me, I heard something on the radio today that I think it means joy, happiness. And she proceeded to sing in Spanish, Alegría, Alegría. There was a tune, actually it was a Broadway show that came to Buenos Aires and brought a slice of the life of what was New York at that time. So the Hare Krishna movement was very integral to the culture of America at that time in the 70s, late 60s. Later on that day, my cousin had records. We used to get everything from America and Europe, records, LPs we call them. And he had George Harrison record, and one side was the Mahamantra. So again, I was exposed to the Mahamantra. Well, my friends, thought, well, it's kind of boring, repetitious. But there was something there I was very attracted to. In the meantime, my peers, that youth movement gained momentum, and we were looking to a different culture, People were like dissatisfied with the Western culture. We call it the system. We thought it was pretty hypocritical, and I was looking to my North American brothers. My family, my father's family actually came to North America, to New England early on. I just found out not too long ago. And they fought in the revolution against the British. So my grandfather first, my father's father came first to New York and didn't like it. They were Jewish, and there was a lot of segregation at that time. So he came to Buenos Aires, as where my father was born and I was born. So my mother raised me with a lot of faith in God, but not too much faith in the institution. Because Catholic Church has some dark moments, and they had forgotten, what the teachings were in a way. So my mother always said that, Jesus was about compassion, love, and that God is love and love is God. And so I wanted to come to North America. I wanted to go and find out about. And since I was a child, I was very attracted to India. For some reason, and ancient cultures caught my attention. So anyhow, making a story short, my father reluctantly, but he gave me a round trip ticket to go to U.S. And I went to, and that's where I got my first VTG. That I thought it was so attractive, especially the back side was Balaram killing Prahlad Basura. And we were all for peace and love, but somehow or other that scene, it was very attractive. It was Balaram killing a demon. But when I opened it, I saw Srila Prabhupada for the first time, a photograph of him. And unfortunately, when I got home, my bag was stolen, so I lost my PTG. I did get my sweet ball. I was 18 years old. We would go there to telegraph at the end to the campus of the university and to listen to and see what was going on, hang out, what they call it, and listen to the Maha Mantra. So fast forward, I made it all the way to England. Again, every place that I went to in America, the devotees were there chanting. When I got to London, again, devotees were there. I lived near Portobello Road. And anyhow, my trip got short. My visa ran out, so I had to go back to Argentina. And that's where I met the first devotee, that Hanuman Prabhu, that he was in a corner, not knowing what to do, looking. I said, "Oh, I know you from America. You Hare Krishna?" I said, "Yes." And so he's the one that he told me, "Oh, I'm opening a temple." Gave me a card with a Maha Mantra, and he said, I said, "Oh, what do you need?" I said, "Oh, I'm looking for paint. Starting the temple." Anyhow, he ended up marrying my sister. We both became the first disciples of Srila Prabhupada in Argentina, and I got, the reason I really joined was because Hanuman asked me to translate Prabhupada's books, especially Bhagavad Gita. And I come from the youth culture. We were looking towards the East in philosophies and reincarnation and like that. And I believe in them, but and it wasn't until I read Prabhupada's books where he used the word bona fide, that this is not a drug-induced philosophy or hallucination, but it was a real thing coming from Krishna. The teachings were real, were bona fide, they're very ancient, and there was a connection to a parampara, a disciplic succession. So it eased my heart, and I decided, this is the place to be. Nothing better to be a devotee and to help humanity. The teachings were, all that I imbibed from my mother, but with much more depth. And and so I stayed. And then fast forward, this senior disciple married my sister and took us to meet Srila Prabhupada. And this was the end of November 1973. I had already taken my first initiation, Harinam, and that's how I met Srila Prabhupada in person in Los Angeles. And I was dumbstruck. I couldn't say a word. Pretty much also being translator, I became an editor of the books in Spanish. We only had 3 books in Spanish, and I brought them to Srila Prabhupada. I had edited them, and my sister was, she had her own ad agency, and she had won Cannes Festival for film festival, short film, on campaign for 7-Up. And so she had also very knowledgeable in book publication and a graphic designer. So she went with that, and she ended up being the art director for BBT in Los Angeles for the press, for printing. So Prabhupada met us, and we became like our father too, our grandfather figure. And so I was privileged to be able to have many darshans and also morning walks all the way, even in Mayapur, when only GBCs were allowed, and like that. So Prabhupada taught me a lot of things, very key ones, and like that. So that was my first meeting with Srila Prabhupada. I got to know him in 73 and brought him the books. He actually was, with my sister, we're thinking we're coming from an aristocratic family, but through circumstances, my great-grandmother lost everything. Her father passed away, and his new family took everything. And my father's fortune got lost when my grandfather died. And yeah, I mean, there was some money, but it wasn't, a fortune or anything like that. So we learned to live. They were very moral people too, my parents, and so many of the things, the principles in bhakti, like cleaning, washing, after passing, whatever, all that I had learned since I was a child. So I went to the temple.
That wasn't normal in the U.S., but he was in Argentina, which was more cultured, actually.
Cool.
Buenos Aires.
Yeah. प्रभु जी, बोर्ड अगर यहीं खड़ी है तो उसको बंद करवा सकते हो. एक बार बोल के देख लो. उस साइड से आ रही है क्या? फिर ठीक है, चलेगा. Okay, so it's very interesting, like from both of your stories. Like I am from Chandigarh and I'm Punjabi, so I'm from Sikh family. So I also raised by Ekomkar, Satnam, Karta Purak. I used to read Guru Granth Sahib. My mother used to take me to Gurdwara, and I used to read Japji Sahib. And from your story, I was a fan of George Harrison. Like when I introduced into Krishna consciousness, George Harrison was the first person whom I was like, wow, he's a rock star and he's a devotee. I can also be a rock star, because I had this much long hair, like we used to follow rock culture, was very new at that time. So it's very inspiring. Now, like when you met Prabhupada for the first time, you saw Prabhupada, I heard many devotees saying, oh, he was like that, he was like that. So what was your personal experience when you first time saw Prabhupada in front of you and you're like, wow, this is Prabhupada? So can you tell me?
Like you, it was not of this world. As I said, I started aspiring to be a devotee in Hawaii, but I came back to my hometown, Atlanta, Georgia, because my grandfather died, and my grandmother paid for me to come, and I moved into the temple there. And Srila Prabhupada, I had already been in the movement for almost a year, and Srila Prabhupada was in New York in I can't remember what time of year, but it was in 71, and they arranged for him to be on a TV show, The Devotees, in Gainesville, Florida, which is there's New York, and then, if you go down the coast, you come to Atlanta, and then you get to Gainesville, Florida, So they arranged for Srila Prabhupada to be on the TV show, and on the way back, he stopped in the Atlanta airport and changed planes, and he was in the airport for 2.5 hours. So the devotees rented a room in the airport, and we had a program. So it was not of this world. And we were arranging for it for weeks. We built a Vyasasan to take to the airport. And at that time, we only had the 3 Bhagavatams Srila Prabhupada brought from India, and then we had booklets on new chapters. And we copied the Vyasasan on the cover of one of the Bhagavatam chapters, where Narada Muni is listening to, I think, Lord Brahma, yes. And we made a Vyasasan that looked like this. It had no back, but it was round. And a new devotee who was named Kathy, she knew how to smock. She made a beautiful pillow. And we had a feast, and we all went to the airport. And people came from around, from nearby temples. Everyone came to Atlanta. And when Prabhupada landed, because I'd lived in Hawaii, I knew how to make a garland for people because it's part of the culture in Hawaii. No one in Atlanta knew how to make them. So I was, for people, we just had pictures on the altar. I'd been to the Honolulu temple and to the Los Angeles temple, but I never saw the deities, so I was the only one that had ever made a garland for a real person. And they gave me roses, carnations, and 2 miniature magnolias, which are kind of like tree lotuses, very fragrant. And I thought I had to use every single flower, because I didn't know. But, so I made a garland with, the flowers facing everywhere you looked, you saw the face of a flower. And I had a 2.5-year-old and a 4-year-old, and the girl was 2.5, and the 4-year-old, he was very interested in Krishna consciousness. He was very dedicated, and he said he wanted to give. I asked if I could take one of the roses for my 2.5-year-old to give the girl to give to Prabhupada. And my son said, I want to give him a flower too. And I said, no, I don't think boys can give him a flower. So we got to the airport, and we all went to where there's a window, and the plane stops, and the steps come down on the tarmac. And we were watching, and people were streaming down the stairways, and suddenly the entrance to the airplane lit up. And then there was Srila Prabhupada standing at the top of the steps in silk saffron there was no breeze, but his clothes were moving like a breeze just on him. And he lifted his head up and walked down the steps. And then when he landed, he stepped to the side, and he was with a devotee, the GBC at the time, named Jamanjaya. And Balavanta, the president of Atlanta, he came forward with the garland I had made. And so Srila Prabhupada took the marigold garland he was wearing, and he put it on Jamanjaya. And then Balavanta put my garland on Srila Prabhupada, and it went all the way to his feet. And he began to walk across the tarmac, and his feet were not touching the ground. And we followed him, and we went into the room, and he saw little Vyasa-san we'd made on the table, and he didn't want to get up on the table, but they convinced him. So he got on the table and he sat down. He looked so beautiful, and he emanated a blue effulgence. And my husband and I thought, we said to each other, in order to move into the temple, I had to marry the boyfriend, because that was, So he said, Srila Prabhupada, do you see that? I said, yes, he's emanating a blue effulgence. He goes, well, we better not say anything to anyone, because they'll think we're having a past drug experience. So we didn't say anything, but when Satsvarup's book came out, everyone that was interviewed about that day said, and Srila Prabhupada was emanating a blue effulgence on that day. And so my son had disappeared, and he returned, and I gave the rose to my 2.5-year-old, and she gave it to him and ran and hid behind me. My son had found a flower growing in a pot in the airport. It was beautiful, multi-petaled, kind of orange, and he went and took it to Srila Prabhupada and paid his full dandavats and stood back up, and Srila Prabhupada said, thank you very much. And he came running back. He goes, Srila Prabhupada spoke to me. He said, thank you very much. And for weeks, if you just looked at my 4-year-old, he'd say, Srila Prabhupada spoke to me. He said, thank you very much. So then we had prepared a play for Prabhupada. And it was The Brahmin and the Cobbler. Do you know that story? Okay. Well, the devotee playing Narada Muni, I think he was about 19 years old, and he'd just been initiated, and he was very shy, and his name was Jayasena. And he came in as Narada Muni, and he saw Srila Prabhupada, and he fell to the floor and paid his full dandavats. Then he got up, and he saw Srila Prabhupada at a different angle, so he fell to the floor and paid his dandavats. Then he paid his dandavats to all the devotees in the room, and then he paid his dandavats to the walls, and so the play wasn't starting. So Srila Prabhupada said, just see, Narada Muni is so humble that he pays his obeisances to everyone and everything. And then he started narrating the play. So the play went on with Srila Prabhupada as the spontaneous narrator. And then when the play was finished, we had prepared prasadam for him, and they brought the tray up, and they gave Srila Prabhupada a piece of watermelon, and he leaned back so elegant, and he popped it in his mouth. And then the room had an accordion door dividing it, so they closed the door in front of Vyasa-san so he could eat in private. And then when the doors opened back up again, he spoke, and there was an Indian gentleman who had been invited probably by Balavanta from Emory University, which is also a hospital. And actually my father's father, my grandfather, he was one of the founders of that hospital. So so everything was done, and Srila Prabhupada was like speaking to the audience, and he says to the Indian gentleman, so what are you doing here in the U.S.? And he goes, oh, I'm a biologist at Emory University. And he goes, oh, so you are killing frogs? And he said, we are killing them so that we can understand them better. And Srila Prabhupada said, I would like to understand you better. May I kill you? He threw his whole body flat in dandavats, and he started kissing Srila Prabhupada's shoes. And he says, you may do with me anything you like. And then the program was over, and Srila Prabhupada got down, and we went outside, and we all followed him with a kirtan, and we were going to walk him back to the airplane. And a devotee from the Atlanta temple who lived nearby, because he was 40 years old, which was really old to us at that time. And he lived with his mother who had cancer, and he had brought her to the airport. So he wheeled her at her request in front of Prabhupada, and she said, "Srila Prabhupada, I'm dying of cancer." And she threw herself in dandavats at his feet. And she'd never been to the temple. She'd just seen him for the first time. And then she got up on her knees, and Prabhupada said, he rubbed her head and said, "Do not worry, you will be all right." And then we followed Srila Prabhupada to the airplane. And the whole atmosphere was the spiritual world. And then Srila Prabhupada walked into the airplane, and the door shut, and so did everything, the spiritual world, the effulgence, everything flew away, and we were so bereft without it. But it was extraordinary, not of this world.
So what was your experience, Prabhu, like when you saw Prabhupada for the first time?
By the way, I did my DNA recently, well, not a few years back, and I have percentage of Punjabi.
What is that exactly?
That's probably why I made my call to India, since I was. But yeah, I have 5 generations European, and like I said, my uncles, and they were trained in Germany, and also in the college in Russia, medicine and like that. So we were, pretty much my family was well read. And so meeting Prabhupada, like I said, I was very good in Castilian, Spanish language. So I was editing. I had to edit the first 3 books. They were translated into Spanish. They were Easy Journey to Other Planets. It was so fascinating. And Prabhupada had a knack for giving the perfect title to the books. There was a hook, and I was a science student, and it's Easy Journey to Other Planets. We're all like, wow, amazing books. The other was Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the other one was Raja Vidya. And it was a very poor translation, so I had to, when my sister went to print the books, because Argentina, the peso, the money had devaluated, and it was very hard for us to buy the books from America, and then the price was prohibited. So my sister, with her knowledge, she knew all the printers. Anyhow, we tried to print them there, and they said, "Oh, these books nobody's gonna understand," especially scholars and high class people are like. You need to edit them. Anyhow, I edit them, and we're thinking, my first time to meet Srila Prabhupada, I knew he was the outer manifestation of Super Soul. So we were all like excited, afraid, it's like, and thinking with my sister, oh, we come from such a family, it would have been so nice to bring Prabhupada titles and a land. Argentina is a beautiful country, and later on, Prabhupada let me know that Arjuna had been in Argentina. That was why the name Argentina comes from. But we didn't have any material gifts. What to give. We brought, So I brought the 3 books, and I was like dumbstruck, and then couldn't say much or anything. And Prabhupada kept signaling to me when Los Angeles, we were in his quarters.
Continue.
Okay. That come closer, and I said, "Oh, why?" Then I realized he could tell a million things with his eyes, gesture. And my mother was like that. The Spanish people, like like that. I could read their, they could read me and they correct me. so I realized, oh yeah, Prabhupada said, "Why'd you bring me?" And he's looking at the book. Oh, here's Srila Prabhupada. So his face lit up. I mean, it was like the best thing I could ever bring him. It was his books that he had translated. So put so much into it and bring that knowledge to help humanity. And I realized that by reading his Gita, that this was the best thing that we could ever bring as a gift to humanity, to end the miseries, to end all the horrible suffering that's been going on in the world. And now, we can see. And so Prabhupada proceeded to, now back in his quarters in Los Angeles, he looked at the books and he read the titles in perfect Spanish. Krishna, la suprema personalidad de Dios. And I'm thinking, I'm like, wow. I'm thinking, Prabhupada reads, he knows Spanish, he knows the language. And then Prabhupada looked at me, he read my mind. And he said, he quoted the verse and he said, Krishna speaks even the birds' languages. So another very mystical experience, and I have recurrent that he would read my mind and respond to that. Like when I got my Diksha initiation from him, he spoke to me. And I got that, that same day went to get Dakshin. And I brought one of the things I brought him, it was a pot of honey. And I stayed, he let me stay in the room, and it was very busy that day. He was getting ready to leave, This was Mexico City temple. And he was going, I think, to Miami next. And Atlanta, actually, he was going to. And,
I wasn't there that year.
So anyhow, it was something beyond words in some sense. It was a mystical experience. I knew I was meeting the representative of God, but I felt that I was meeting God in person. Shashat Hari Tena Samastra Shastri. That he is actually equal to God, and at the same time, he's the best servant of God.
I'm with Madhvas from last, like maybe 10 plus years. And I'm also inclined to very much to music. And you both are having a music background. And, somehow I believe that music plays a very important role or part in our devotional life to connect to Krishna, because if you see Prabhupada, he went to Thompson Square Park for the first time. He went to America, he did Kirtan. So music always was a very integral part of ISKCON or the movement. So how music played that part in your devotional life?
Music is very important because Narada Muni, he travels all throughout the spiritual and material universes, chanting and singing and playing his veena. Actually, his veena sings Radhika Ramana. And when Srila Prabhupada entered Samadhi, not long after that, he was being interviewed for Sasrup's book, and they were interviewing his sister, Pishima Bhavatarini.
Yeah.
And I was in the room. It was in the guest house here. And they asked her several questions. And then they said, if you could only choose one quality or one word to describe Srila Prabhupada, what would you say? And she said, he was an expert musician. Any instrument he picked up, he could play.
No doubt in that.
And also in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Srila Prabhupada dedicates a purport, and it's discussing Narada Muni, actually. He says, all devotees should learn the scale, sa re ga ma pa da ni sa. It's very important for spiritual life.
So what was your musical background like?
Well, my father's mother was an opera singer, and she was from a wealthy family, so she never did it for money. It was always for religious things, but she was quite famous. And she actually had a degree in music from college, and she was older than Srila Prabhupada. So, and then my mother sang on the radio, and when she was in college, she was in a band with a famous musician and television star later on became named Dinah Shore. But I wasn't trained in music at all when I was young. But I did write the song, and I had a poem published when I was 9, and I was in a band in college briefly, and I got a job as an editor for a magazine when I was 18, but I went there for a trial and didn't like it. And I started singing when I was, well, I sang all the time, but when I was 10, somebody recorded me singing an opera. And although I'd had no training, I could sing the opera like an adult and do all the, so I didn't start learning to play an instrument until I was 21.
Wow.
And I just kind of taught myself to play the guitar. And then when I moved into the temple, because I had children, I was given my own room, and people would move in and they would surrender their guitar and put it in the room I was in. So I started learning to do kirtan with the guitars. Then Kirtananda came to the Atlanta Temple in 71. He just started the Traveling Roadshow, and he asked me to join and the roadshow. So,
Oh, wow.
and it was interesting because, as I said, I was from a wealthy family, and I renounced everything, and I thought being a hippie was spiritual, and I actually tried to, on my own. I was raised Jewish, but one time I read the New Testament of the Bible, so I tried to follow Jesus, and I didn't use money, and and I actually had about 20 followers, but I always sang, I'd sing about God, and then now it was the real thing. And so as soon as I moved into the Atlanta Temple, though, I started inheriting money. So the first thing I did was give it to Balavanta, and he bought cloth, so we all had polyester, orange and yellow dhotis and saris. If you were married, it was yellow, and if you weren't, it was orange. And when we met Srila Prabhupada, everybody was wearing the cloth that I'd bought. So then I was with the Traveling Roadshow briefly, and it was too difficult because I had children. So I actually was the lead singer for the roadshow for a while. So Prabhupada didn't object, but I left and went to Los Angeles. Oh, and I got other things. I got a Cadillac from my grandmother died, the one that paid for me to come to Atlanta, and the will was in, I guess, probate. But my Kirtananda was there, and my aunt and uncle, who were the executors of the will, they were vegetarian because my mother was raised vegetarian, and my aunt and uncle and my cousins were all vegetarian, and I took Kirtananda to meet them, and they took us to the house of my grandparents' house, and anything we wanted. There was silver and brass and things. They gave me a brand new Cadillac, and they wanted to have their son go to what Kirtananda was proposing was to have a summer camp. Yeah.
I think one of your contribution is actually we started the genre of the devotees as a writer, poetress. Excuse me. Bhatrini started translating Prabhupada's books into poetry that can be sung into songs. And she's the very first one really to, I mean, there are poets like Jamadagni Prabhu, Armstrong, last name, Indra Armstrong, that compose, or Patita Bhavan, who's a great poet, and Prabhupada loved his poetry. But the one who started really putting things to music was Bhattarini. And that's how everybody, and incorporated Western and Eastern instruments.
So you both played as a band ever in front of Prabhupada?
No.
No.
Actually, I played. So I left the road show because I had children, and but the Cadillac, we sold it and we bought 3 buses, and so that the road show was, the first buses were from that. But I didn't stay with the road show. I went to Los Angeles.
So just to explain to my audience, what road show is exactly like? What do you do on a road show?
So at that time, there was rock bands doing rock operas. There was Jesus Christ Superstar, and there were festivals. There was Woodstock, and there were traveling bands that would live in buses and do the circuit of festivals around the U.S. And so, excuse me. So one day, Kirtananda had New Vrindavan, and they also had city temples, and a devotee named Mangalananda went with Kirtananda to Pittsburgh for preaching, and there was a guitar in the basement, and he came upstairs and played a song he'd just written called Lord Chaitanya's Moon is Rising.
Yeah, I know that song.
Oh, you do?
Chaitanya, moon is rising.
Yes.
It's not surprising
that we're dancing in the streets, telling
jamming
everyone
every beat. Yeah.
we're going home.
Yeah.
So he said, let's start a traveling road show with that song. And so they came with whatever they had some devotees from New York that used to be hippies that had their own bus that used to do the light shows for the big concerts in New York. They came with their 9-month-old baby, and another devotee named Dulal Chandra and his wife had a newborn baby, and his parents gave him a car as a gift. So they piled however many devotees fit into that. Then there was a devotee who wasn't initiated named Zubin who made tie-dyes, and he had a van that was tie-dyed, and everybody piled into that. About 20 devotees came to Atlanta. We were the first stop, and they were doing rock opera about Krishna consciousness.
So it was on a truck, or you used to play in the buses or like on the streets?
No, we'd play in venues. We'd so in Atlanta, we'd go to Unitarian churches, and so they had the van from the light show people. They had the van, a bus from them. They had a van from the tie-dye artist, and they had a car from one person, and they all piled in. 20 people with Kirtananda, who was a sannyasi, showed up at the Atlanta temple, and they did a sample of their, I don't remember what they called the opera, but rock opera. They called the traveling show Every Town and Village.
Oh, wow, nice.
And we would go different places, and like one time we went to a black, at that time the segregation was supposed to be over, but it hadn't caught on yet. So we went to an all-black church, and they had a lady preacher, and it's like, praise the Lord, Jesus Christ, and then they'd sing songs about Jesus, like, this little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. And the band had organ, but it also had people playing the spoons, and a tub made into a bass, and and scrub boards, and so we were all singing and dancing in the church to the Christian tunes. And then Kirtananda gets up and he goes, well, I have a little song for you that I'd like you all to sing along with us. And it goes like this: Hare Krishna, Krishna
Krishna
Krishna,
Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Hare,
Hare,
Hare Rama,
Hare
Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And that means praise the Lord. And everyone in the congregation said, praise the Lord. And we all started singing and chanting and dancing. And the caretaker of the building said, we're closing the building now. You have to leave. So everyone, the whole congregation, and every instrument that wasn't attached to the floor, they brought it into the parking lot. And we continued chanting and dancing Hare Krishna for hours in the parking lot with this whole church's congregation.
So you were also part of this, or like you have a
No,
different journey?
later on, when we got married, actually was the next phase of it. It was actually the Rath Yatras festivals. Rath Yatra began, and the very first one, 74, 75, it was very traditional, mridanga, kartals, like that. We did Harinam. But when we got married, by 85, already had been a band, but Trini was part of a band. But we formed a band ourselves.
Cool. So, as now the time is changing very rapidly, right? So we are preaching to generations, Gen Z and Gen Alpha is coming, and the music also changing very rapidly. Like now there is electronic music, EDM music, rock music, there's a fusion. So some devotees, they say like we have to stick with our devotional instruments like mridanga and kartal only, and some are like, okay, they are preaching through new music, through new generation.
Yeah.
So I want to know both of your.
There is, yeah. Well, I can tell me too. I came from a background, there were doctors, but one of my father's brother was a musician, actually trained, in college, and he had his own orchestra, was a composer.
He was very famous with tango.
In tango, and he brought the first tango orchestra to Japan. So on my father's side, there was a music there too. But on my mother was the mezzo-soprano singer. But because of her social status, it wasn't a thing that girls could get into, And
Not
it was a
professional.
particular. So my generation, we were all that's how I enter here. The Mahamantra was through music. And the Beatles actually propagated, especially George Harrison, propagated the mantra around the planet. And so, music is very pivotal. Now, as we go back in Vaishnava history, Bhaktivinoda Thakur wrote many, many songs. He wrote Sharanagati.
No, I'm talking about the genre of the music, like it's changing. So instruments like guitar, like bass guitar.
Yes. So for public, like Prabhupada brought in the harmonium, but we didn't play it, although, the devotees started into this kirtan at night. We did the Sundarati with harmonium. But Prabhupada wanted was a traditional, that for the temple to the kirtans. But in broadcast, he didn't mind, actually. He praised devotees, those devotees, who play guitar, like Narayan and his wife. And Prabhupada wanted them to travel around India playing guitar and singing.
In English.
So it's our tradition. You had Narottam Das Thakur, Srinivas, Acharya, each one of Shyamananda, each one had a particular style of kirtan. And it was a modern thing, the thing to do. So, that is part of Vaishnava culture, to be with the times and the music. Of course, the tradition in the temple for worship should be, is what our acharyas want, is mridanga, kartals.
And when I was with the Roadshow, there was a time when Mangalananda started it. He wrote that song, Lord Chaitanya. So he didn't want to do music. He wanted to cook. So I became the lead singer. And not just that, it was Western instruments. A lot of the devotees objected because I was a woman. But and then people objected to guitars and things, but Prabhupada would say different things at different times. And actually, the harmonium was criticized. It's not an Indian instrument. It's not a bhajan instrument. And I believe in the Jagannath temple, mridangas aren't allowed because they have leather on them. So when I left and I went to Los Angeles, and Vishnu John, he had started puppet shows in Los Angeles. Then he came and he became the lead singer in the Traveling Road Show.
He used to play accordion, right?
Yeah, he played. Actually, Tamal Krishna, they used to play music before they were devotees. Tamal played the flute, and
Krishna John played harmonium, and Prabhupada actually taught him.
Yeah, Prabhupada taught him harmonium, but people really criticized the harmonium, especially in India, that it was European, it was not Vedic. But Prabhupada really approved of the Traveling Road Show. And then they started getting off course. He came to see the road show, and everybody was wearing tie-dyes. Most of the songs were about being in Maya and taking drugs, and they didn't even give Prabhupada a proper seat, and they didn't pay obeisances to him, so he disbanded the Traveling Road Show. So meanwhile, I had gone to Los Angeles, and I was asked to write introduction songs for Vishnu John's puppet shows, and he'd gone and he was doing the Traveling Road Show. So, but before that, I'm sorry, I was in a band at the Los Angeles Temple, and every week we would perform at the Sunday Feast, and we had 500 people coming to the Sunday Feast. But then when that fiasco happened with Vishnu John and the Traveling Road Show, they told us our band had to disband, and we couldn't play Western instruments, and we couldn't sing in English. So, and they were trying to say that was coming from Srila Prabhupada. Then Srila Prabhupada came to Los Angeles, and at that time I had switched over to writing songs for puppet shows and performing a song for the puppet show. And Srila Prabhupada came to listen to me sing. He was supposed to come to the puppet show, but he didn't. He came and he didn't enter, so no one knew he had come, and he listened to me singing, and it was the song about Sudama Vipra. And he liked it very much, and he encouraged. And my first written instructions from him were to chant Hare Krishna always and spread it to every town and village. And under his supervision, I always have the Maha Mantra in every single song.
Let's go to, because I know that you both were there when Prabhupada, in 77, Prabhupada was in room when so you were there, right? You both were there, right? When Prabhupada left?
Was there. He called us actually on the phone.
Okay.
He sent Rupanuga Prabhu to call my sister, brother-in-law, and myself to come. Also, Prabhupada at that time wanted all the devotees from all over the world, all his disciples, to come to see him. Unfortunately, we didn't have the money, and so I couldn't collect on time to get there. But yeah, Prabhupada wanted all of us to be there in his final journey, or his final pastime. With us, like the music is helped us in many ways, but I think it's for one of the things that attracted us. And we formed this band. Actually, we did all Rath Yatras, including going to
For
Washington,
12 years.
D.C. And then our son, the eldest son, put out shows in clubs and started a genre that was like, with acoustic music that he let us play, chanting the mantra.
Not acoustic, it was live.
Or live music, I'm sorry. not
We
acoustic, it
had
was
electric guitars, but we did a mix of Eastern and Western instruments.
Projections of the movie, for example, of Sri Chaitanya Prabhu, the Nilachala, and like that on the class. So it was very attractive. And the youth, at that time, the raves were the thing. So, but this was,
They were like
spontaneous
Krishna
thing.
conscious raves with no drugs.
So
And,
we did go to that, but we also mainly Rath Yatra, and
12 years we
formed,
did Rath Yatra.
Actually, we got to know Mooseman, that was a bass player for Body Count, and it was a controversial, very famous group in America. They were Afro-Americans or black musicians, but he came to our house and one day, and he wanted to know what we're doing this weekend, and I said, well, we're going to sing for Lord Jagannath, and here's Lord
Lord of the
Jagannath,
universe.
this black Krishna. I said, wow, I want to be there, I'll go with you guys. So he started to form bands around us. He was an excellent bass player. Then another one of my idols, actually, in music, when I was a kid, I used to go watch. It was Elmiro Molinari from Argentina, and he had two bands that made Sony Hall of Fame for South America. And he so happened to be in LA, and he was a studio musician too. And anyhow, he
They were the most famous band in Argentina in the 60s and 70s.
And
They were compared to
Latin
the
America, you
Beatles
would
in
say.
Latin America, and they're in the Sony Hall of Fame. So he
So-
was playing with us, and Mooseman was playing with us with our bands at Rath Yatra.
So that was recorded live, and we won Hawaii Music Awards with that
Album.
recording, with that CD.
Wow. So, like today, like you said, there was a rave. What you said, rave?
Yes, a rave, a Krishna conscious
Krishna
rave.
conscious rave. So nowadays we have bhajan clubbing.
Yes,
That is going
I've seen
on.
that on
Yeah.
And
the
like
media.
the bands like Madhva's Rock Band and other very young generation, they are doing some concerts, rock concerts, bhajan concerts. So what do you want to say to them? Like, let's say one line or something you want to say, like in line of Prabhupada, like what Prabhupada would be, what he would be saying to them right now, because you know Prabhupada very personally. And
Well, I can assume that I will know what Prabhupada thinks, so would say. He's a pure devotee and a Mahabhagavat. But all I know is that to hear the Mahamantra, to make it available to all, started by Lord Chaitanya when he, first it was an intimate thing, but then he spilled onto the streets as a popular thing with new instruments or instruments, mridanga, and many other musical instruments, which we can read from Chaitanya Bhagavat, how they came. Actually, it was very, very much our integral Indian culture, music and the singing and the dancing. So Lord Chaitanya introduced that, the chanting, dancing, and feasting. So to this generation, that too is music is always appealing, but the strength of it comes from the chanting of the holy names, and that's what will make it powerful. It will enlighten people. It will make us ultimately happy. Talking about people at large. It might be a fashion. That's all right. That's okay. The styles change.
yeah,
But-
we have like electric guitars now and
Yeah,
instruments.
and that was introduced. For some devotees, all kind of what they call in America, freaked out about oh my God, you're playing rock and roll. I don't want to hear it, But many people joined because of it.
because of it, yeah.
So
Even I joined because of that.
Yeah.
George Harrison. I used
Right.
But we wanted to know with the music, what was the content? What are you saying? The Beatles had something to say. The different bands had something to say. Bob Dylan had something to say. But their message, the most powerful message, was what Prabhupada brought. And by the way, George Harrison's favorite singer was Prabhupada. He said so. So, yeah. To this generation, just go on dancing and chanting
And it's just like
and singing.
Lord Chaitanya brought this chanting for everyone all over the world, any race, any sex, any culture, any type of body. He said, even a child can take part in this chanting. Even a dog can take part in dance and ecstasy. So the instruments, they're also personalities. In the song, the Arctic song,
In the spiritual world.
in the spirit, well, no, with Lord
instruments are-
Chaitanya, the mridanga is singing. Who was it, Narottam or Sri?
Narottam Das Thakur, when
His
he played
mridanga-
the mridanga would sing.
The mridanga would sing and chant.
And
Oh, wow.
with
Yes.
that power of
And-
his faith and love that had been awakened, the Panchatattva appeared.
Amazing. So I'll.
You wanted to get to the...
Yeah, I'll get to that point now.
Okay.
So tell me about you were there with Prabhupada when Prabhupada
Okay.
left.
So,
And, you want water?
Thank you.
सब ठीक चल रहा है ना वहाँ पे कैमरा वगैरह तीनों चल रहे हैं ठीक just wait. This is a part of Vrindavan and we no continue कट किया क्या continue कट करने की जरूरत तो नहीं है ना कट करने की जरूरत नहीं कंटिन्यू करें ना कोई बात नहीं वो दोबारा रोल कर लिया ना उधर रोल हो रहा है ना जगन्नाथ आप कैमरे के पास बैठो चेक करते रहो वहाँ पे बार-बार. Okay, so tell me the time when you were with Prabhupada and Prabhupada was...
So I was ordered by Srila Prabhupada to live in Vrindavan. So I was fortunate to be living there. And there's many wonderful preparation to this, but I want to keep it short. So the day that Srila Prabhupada left, we were all not all, but a lot of us were taking lunch prasadam. And someone came in and said, Srila Prabhupada is going to leave his body in, they said, a certain amount of hours. So he wants everyone to come into his room and chant. And so everyone just left what they were eating, left their bags. Everyone just left and went into the room to chant. And Vishaka and Yadabar were like just standing on chairs in the corner the entire time from like 1 o'clock till, was it 7:20 when he left? 7:20 p.m. videoing. And different people were chanting. But I did notice that the Gurukula boys weren't there. So what happened when they said everyone come in, they went, oh, let's go play. So I went and I actually found my son and my best friend's son and some of them hid and wouldn't come in. But so a lot of the Gurukula boys did come in. And actually my son was holding Prabhupada's hand much of the time, massaging his hand. And so I was standing with my two daughters, the youngest ones, right behind Prabhupada's bed, probably behind some men. And I could see Srila Prabhupada. And the chanting had no pride or pretense. We all just thought if we just chant hard enough, Srila Prabhupada will stay. No one thought, oh, I'm a good kirtaniya. The harmonium was being played also. Oh, I'm a good harmonium player. No one, and oh, that person isn't sounding good. No one was thinking anything. No false ego. Everyone just collectively just had complete, pure, unalloyed love for Srila Prabhupada. And we didn't want him to leave us. So at one point, my youngest one started crying. So everyone said, take her out. So I took my 2 youngest girls and I went to my room and changed her diapers. And so my older daughter and a friend came crying and said, Prabhupada's left. So I came back in, and then the Kavi Raj and Hamsaduta, they came running in. And so according to some people, Prabhupada hadn't left. But I mean, it's not. Actually, my son said no. I actually was not there the moment he left. But after that, they said that we should all leave the room, and they were going to bathe Srila Prabhupada and change his clothes, and then take him into the temple room, and we should all go into the temple room and chant all night with Srila Prabhupada. But I didn't leave because I was waiting for Srila Prabhupada to be brought out. And shortly after that, his sister, Pishima, she came out of the room, and she was holding the dhoti that Srila Prabhupada was wearing at the time of his departure. And she called me over, and she took the dhoti and she tore the hem off of it. And she handed it to me. And then she tore another piece off and handed it to me. And she said, you keep this in a separate place, and every day offer incense to it. And then she said, and this other piece you give to Anadi, my god sister, who's Indian, but was raised all over the world, and she speaks many languages. So I don't know Bengali, and Pishima does not know English, and I don't know how we had a conversation, but we did. And I don't know what language we were using, but I was given these instructions by her. So thank you. So I have the dhoti hymn right here.
जय हो, आ जाओ, आशीर्वाद ले लो. या हाँ आ जाओ, नहीं रिकॉर्डिंग ऑन रखो, आ जाओ. हाँ आ जाओ, कोई टेंशन नहीं है यार. सो दिस इज आवर कैमरा टीम. दिस इज धोती जो प्रभुपाद ने जब यहाँ से गोलोक गए थे रूम में, तो ये वही सेम धोती पहनी हुई थी. तो ये माता जी के पास है. माता जी को प्रभुपाद की बहन ने दी थी. ठीक है, उनका नाम भी अवतारनी है, तो उन्होंने ये दी थी. सो टेक आशीर्वाद, सर पे लगा लो अपने सर पे लगाओ इसको. So this is very special mercy we got, Jagannath. So this is the same dhoti. Wow. Prabhupada was wearing this.
Yeah, it's the last
Wow.
dhoti.
So now just the last ending part. We cannot end without you taking shelter of Narayan Maharaj, and so how you took shelter of him, and how you took shelter of Narayan Maharaj.
So the same day, okay, I had seen Srila Narayan Maharaj for the first time, that when he came to see Srila Prabhupada, and then after Prabhupada left, he came, and he's the one that told us that we should all go in the temple room and sit with Srila Prabhupada until morning. And then we went into the temple room, and Krishna Das Babaji, Prabhupada's godbrother, began to sing Prayanela, Ajayanela, Prema Dana, Karuna Prachur, and he choked up and he cried. And Srila Narayan Maharaj took over and began singing. And then he sang he sang Sri Guru Charana Padma. And all night we sat in the temple room with Srila Prabhupada's divine form on the Vyasasana, and his body was exhibiting all symptoms of ecstasy. And then at sunrise, Srila Narayan Maharaj led the Harinam party into the streets of Vrindavan, and we went to the 7 major temples, and the pujaris all came out and did arti to Srila Prabhupada's form. And he actually went to some private places, and some people spontaneously ran up to Srila Prabhupada. All the Brijbasis came to worship and offer respects to Srila Prabhupada's form. And when we got back to the temple, the gaping hole was there, and they took, it was beyond, they at the edge of this big hole, big, gigantic, gaping, dark. They bathed Srila Prabhupada in all the wonderful substances. And I thought, they would never have done that to Prabhupada, pouring honey and milk and all those things all over, and it's running in his face. And it was just heart-wrenching. And it gave me a whole new idea of bathing deities. Now I'm not so, dump this on, And then they passed Srila Prabhupada's form down into the Samadhi, and Narayan Maharaj wrote all the mantras on his body, and then they placed him sitting cross-legged, and he was still exhibiting symptoms of ecstasy, and his body there never was rigor mortis. His body was. So then, I don't remember the order, but I was sitting next to Pishima at one point, and she was in a chair, and we were throwing flowers in, and I remember we were almost pushed into the Samadhi. But other than that, it was very organized by Srila Narayan Maharaj and very sweet and orderly and respectful and beautiful. But at one point, they were putting the salt or the sand, and it was about to completely cover Srila Prabhupada's head. So Vishwadevi, another god sister, we ran away and we ran up to the roof of the temple, and then we watched as they filled it in with dirt. From there, we just couldn't stay so close. And then they announced that the next day, Prabhupada had wanted to go on parikrama of Govardhan, and the devotee said, "No, it'll kill you." And he said, "Well, ask the Kaviraj." And the Kaviraj said, "You can do whatever you like. You could actually have a flower airplane take you around Govardhan." But they said, "No, we don't want Prabhupada to go. It'll kill you. It'll kill you." So they didn't take him on the Govardhan Parikram. So Srila Narayan Maharaj said, "So we will take his deity form around Govardhan." And he said, on the 3rd day, we will have a Tirubhav Mahotsava. And if you would like to cook for that, I want 108 preparations. I'd never heard of having a set amount of preparations. He said 108, and if you'd like to cook, come to me and I'll tell you what to make. So Anadi was translating everything for me. Oh, another thing that most English speaking or people who don't know Hindi didn't hear is Narayan Maharaj said, when he spoke, he was glorifying Srila Prabhupada, and he said, and do not be offended if people say that your Srila Prabhupada was a Shaktavesh avatar. He is. So he was at Prabhupada's, he was declaring, he was one of the first people to declare Srila Prabhupada as a Shaktavesh avatar. But this is before that day. So she introduced me to him, and it was kind of funny. She, of course, knows Hindi and English. And we paid obeisances, and then she introduced me to him like a Western type introduction. Oh, Srila Narayan Maharaj, this is Bhavatarini Devi Dasi, you know. And she would like to cook something for the feast. So he answered her, and she said, he said to make crushed ginger, cooked in butter with sugar. But actually he said gur. But I went in the kitchen and made that. And years later, I spoke to him about that. But then the day for the Parikrama of Govardhan, we all gathered where what used to be a fountain, you know, where the samadhi is. That area was a fountain, and then the samadhi was just dirt with a tulsi pot on top. And we all stood there in front of the fountain, and Narayan Maharaj came out of somewhere with a bell metal deity of Srila Prabhupada on his head, and started the kirtan. And he led the kirtan around Govardhan, the 14 miles, the entire. And then we had a picnic at Kusham Sarovara. And then the next day we had the Tirobhav, which he organized.
So, what was your experience?
Okay. Again, I met him first through his books. It was 1989, and my parents became devotees too. And my mother passed away in 1989, and we brought her ashes here to the Vrindavan, and they were put in the Yamuna. And so at that time, I knew some of the God brothers. One of them, Guru Kripa Prabhu, had a table at the Krishna Balaram Mandir, and he asked me to come over. You know, you gotta read this. And it was the first parikrama book of Vrindavan, of Raj, with the stories, wonderful pastimes. But you know, there is a big difference. There's when the pure devotee writes, Shabda Brahma is translated is infused into the writings. So yesterday we listened to, there's a big controversy now. It's been going on for years about Prabhupada's books being changed. And I spoke to later on to Srila Narayan Maharaj about that. And he said, no, even myself, I have to be careful on, I'm not totally happy with whatever they translate and then how it comes back. But he said the other devotees, they might be translating, accurately or maybe technically okay, but only 10%. Narayan Maharaj. So my first encounter with him was through his Parikrama book in '89, and due to circumstances like that, I was never able to be in the same place. A dear friend that passed away, Jagadatri, Devi Dasi, that she called us one day and said, Maharaj is coming to the Big Island, and in Hawaii, Big Island of Hawaii. and you have a nice car. Why don't you pick him up, get him at the airport? So yeah, of course, no problem. And I had heard from my wife, Vatrini, who he was and what he done. And that began our I would call it our love affair. And he was very happy to. Actually, he deepened my relationship with Prabhupada, brought it up to something that never dies, and to that, for that effect, I'm so thankful to him. He became like also part of the family, and he would come and spend 3 months in Hawaii, and we will be there. We got notice from Bratanath, his secretary, and Rinda Devi, his wife, that he will be coming to Hawaii. So we'll be ready. We will go to travel 1 hour by plane to the island of Oahu, where he will come and stay in the North Shore at Vrindavan's Prabhu's house.
He would name our grandchildren. He'd do the grain ceremonies for them. He just
so that's what when going back to the music, he also was very encouraging about us continue to play. But we presented all the songs, presented her songs, a couple of mine songs or whatever I had written. Vatrini is very prolific. I write a lot less.
But he won the songwriting contest by Billboard.
And you both
magazine.
performed in front of him, right?
All the time.
Yes,
He insisted.
He asked us all the time.
He actually would say to me, "Oh, I want you to write a song like this," and he would give me some lines. And he actually co-wrote a song with me.
Yeah. So he went through all of them and checked them. And
So what was his views about using instruments, guitars and all that?
didn't
He'd
seem
see
to
it.
mind.
He always said, "Make sure you bring."
Oh,
and all the crowd, when he come here, there was a big crowd, and like that we look at each other, and he will go,
oh,
Did you bring your
you
guitar?
brought your guitars, but we had to be ready spontaneously at any program he was at to sing a song about what he was talking about on
or
the
some of their
spot.
favorite songs. He had a couple of them.
Yeah, so
he
he
really
would
liked.
we'd be ready, and then he'd have an intermission or something, and we came up and we had to play. Either he'd tell us what song he wanted us to play, or he'd tell us what topic the song needed to be
And
about.
he listened and did some corrections or like that. He was an amazing kirtaniya. He had perfect tal. His rhythm was amazing. I watched him, and he would move his 2 fingers and like that, and he was keeping, rhythm. And so he, at one point, we kept bringing him whatever new material we brought. At one point, he said, "No, now
You don't have to show
you don't
me
have
anything.
to show me
Whatever
anything.
you do is
I know
good."
whatever you do is fine." So yeah, it was always encouraging. He, of course, when it came to he, for example, in the lectures, he would have us sing, but he also mainly made stress on the traditional kirtans and bhajans written by our famous
He
acharyas.
wanted us to learn all the traditional
So
songs
he
also.
gave us, I give you a gift of Krishna Das. He was kind of raised by Srila Narayan Maharaj since he was very little. And he was an amazing kirtaniya.
amazing kirtan. Yeah,
So
yeah.
you'd have
He would
Krishna
just
Das
go-
give us lessons.
So he said, "Oh, you learn from him. I'll give you his, association, and you go learn from him." And like that, I mean, we have a big family, and we're in America, so it was kind of difficult at times, be able to be, there. But he would come with his entourage, and so we had him at our house. He came to our house. He stayed with us. He translated. He was doing translations all the time. And like that. But yeah, he became a father figure, the grandfather. He gave the first grains to our grandchildren, to some of them. And but also our Shiksha Gurudev, our instructor teacher. He taught us, he deepened our understanding And one time he said, your Guru Maharaj, comes first in your life. You always have him first. And they say, your Guru Maharaj, he was more beautiful than I. He knew, he went with his arms like
he's
this,
much.
this much more than me. So yeah, there was, I don't know, maybe it was politics and like that. And he didn't want the society to split apart. At one point, some devotees wanted to go with him and leave ISKCON, but he didn't like that. He didn't want that.
Okay. So
he wanted to keep us, together.
Yeah, I think we're coming to the end of the podcast. So first of all, thank you very much, and we saw the sunrise together.
Yes.
And it was an amazing experience to, listening from you both and developing our relationship more deeper towards Prabhupada and our all acharyas, in our parampara.
Yeah, thank you, Braj, Kishore Prabhu.
And as you said that,
us.
Maharaj used to always give you a surprise that you have to sing. So now I cannot let you go without singing, of course. So who is playing guitar and who is singing?
Well, he's actually better at playing guitar than I am.
So you decide what to sing. And
would you like us to do Lord Chaitanya's Moon is Rising?
Whatever you feel like, whatever you want.
What?
So we can cut once. खत्म बैटरी खत्म अच्छा बंद हुआ है क्या तो ये इसको इन पे लगा लो ये कैमरा हटा लो मेरे से जस्ट वेट मेरे को एंडिंग दे दो just 1 minute I'll give the ending so thank you very much for watching this podcast and I hope you learned with me I learned a lot of things today and you also learned something और जो भी गलती हुई तो प्लीज मेरे को माफ कर देना यार पहली बार किया है इंग्लिश भी इतनी अच्छी नहीं है बट मैं इतना बोला भी नहीं हूँ बोले तो माता जी प्रभु जी हैं तो उनको सुनो और उनसे तो अभी हम सुनेंगे माता जी प्रभु जी से एक बहुत ही प्यारा सॉन्ग वी आर सिंगिंग अ सॉन्ग नाउ सो विल डू दैट हाय बोल वेट आई विल सेट द माइक
Oh, okay. This song was written by Mangalananda and it started the traveling roadshow for the movement for ISKCON in 1971 called Every Town and Village. And this song is called Lord Chaitanya's Moon is Rising. And it was, many people thought I was the songwriter. I used to get requests for permission to produce this song by other people. But I have permission from Mangalananda to sing this. Hare Krishna. Lord Chaitanya's moon is rising, and it's not at all surprising that we're singing in the streets, telling everyone we meet we're going home. Won't you come on home? Yes, back to world is dark and full of sorrow. Will there come a bright tomorrow? Will the heavy-hearted man ever see daylight again? Or will they cry? Will they die? Forever cry. Lord Chaitanya's moon is rising, and it's not at all surprising that we're chanting in the streets, telling everyone we meet we're going home.
Yes.
Won't you come on home?
Yes, back to home.
False convictions people hold firm.
People hold firm.
Fools who worship little glowworms that produce no light at all, doomed to slip and doomed to fall down to hell.
Their souls to sell.
Lord Chaitanya's moon is rising,
See it rising.
and it's not at all surprising that we're singing in the streets, telling everyone we meet we're going home.
Yes.
Won't you come on home?
Yes, back to home.
Prabhupada has Chaitanya's moon glow.
Chaitanya's moon glow.
Greater blessings who can bestow? Our deliverance is certain. Guru Maharaj brought kirtan to every girl and boy. Transcendental joy.
Transcendental joy.
Lord Chaitanya's moon is rising.
See it rising.
And you know it's not at all surprising that we're dancing in the streets, telling everyone we meet, we're going home.
We're going home.
We're going home. Won't you come on home? There's a quarter moon overhead now.
Overhead now.
I must serve Chaitanya somehow. He's the golden avatar. Spreads the name of Krishna far to every town. Hear the holy sound.
Hear the holy sound.
Lord Chaitanya's moon is rising.
It is rising.
And you know it's not at all surprising that we're chanting, dancing, singing in the streets, telling everyone we meet, we're coming home, we're going home. Won't you come on home?
Yes, back to home.
Golden moonbeams each place we wander.
Place we wander.
Fix this mind on Gaurachandra. He made lions chant and dance, the purest love Gauranga's glance. What is this? Each moment bliss, each moment. Lord Chaitanya's moon has risen.
It has risen.
Mankind's fate no more imprisoned. Moonbeams open wide the gate, with love the earth to inundate. What is this? A flood of bliss, a flood of bliss. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. In every town and village,
Every town and village.
every town and village,
Every town
in
and
every
village.
town and village,
Every town.
it will be heard. In every town and village,
Every town and village.
every town and village,
Every town and village.
in every town and village,
Town and village
it will be heard. It's a holy sound. It's a holy sound.
Holy sound.
It's a holy sound. It's a holy, holy sound. It's a holy sound. It's a holy sound.
Holy sound.
It's a holy sound. It's a holy, holy sound. It's by His mercy.
By His mercy.
His causeless mercy.
Causeless mercy.
By His mercy, we're going home.
Yeah.
It's by His mercy, the Lord's mercy. It's by His mercy, we're going home. Chant Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Lord Chaitanya's moon has risen.
It has risen.
Mankind's fate no more in prison.
No more in prison.
Moonbeams open wide the gate, with love the earth to inundate. What is this? A flood of bliss.
The flood of bliss. What
A
is this?
flood of bliss.
A flood of bliss. For Premanande.
निकुंज में विराजे घनश्याम राधे राधे।